Right, so we continue with the full view here on SABC. Now the news now, the 80-member ANC NEC, including the party's top 7 leadership, was announced this week at the ANC's 55th National Conference under the theme of renewal. With the number of Ramaphosa backers making the cut, we're going to explore whether the new ANC NEC will indeed be boosting Cyril Ramaphosa. Political analyst Lukhanyo Vangqa weighs in for more. Lukhanyo, good evening and thank you for joining us here on the SABC.
Good evening, Lisa. Thank you for inviting me.
Perhaps, we can look at whether this new NEC will give President Ramaphosa stronger momentum to take his, agenda of his agenda reforms forward. I wonder how you would weigh in on that, given that 80-member list that was released this week.
Yes, I think that could be argued in that sense, Diesel, because looking at the 80-member NEC, we saw that at about 70 to 80% of that list is made up of Cyril Ramaphosa supporters. Therefore, this NEC would be much behind the president in a stronger way than the previous NEC was. And also, if you just look at the sheer number of people that have made it onto this NEC, who actually happen to work at the union buildings, it's quite a large number. About 10% of the people that made it onto that NEC are actually working inside the union buildings where the president is the political principal or is their political principal. So even from that sense, you can see that the president has really tightened his grip around the NEC this time around. Whether or not that will be enough of an impetus for him to move a bit faster to implement this reform, his reform agenda and these policies that he feels are necessary to take the country forward, especially regarding ESCOM and the challenges that we see there, and also the issue of the energy mix and what form that is supposed to take. Also the fight against corruption, whether it's going to act in a more pointed way in that sense, will also depend on the nature, the character of the man himself. Will he feel, stronger or be in a stronger position that he can be able to act without fearing what his NEC is going to do as a result of him having acted? So in that sense, it does seem like he's gotten the NEC that is asked for. Now the question is, will he be able to act with this NEC?
Lukhanyo, what was the impact of the loss of some key members that they didn't quite make the list, but they were obviously in his slate? We obviously saw Pravin Gordhan, Nosiviwe Mabisa-Nqakula, Jeff Khadebe, amongst others. How would you weigh in on that loss?
It's got two aspects for it. It's really about the old guard that is sort of retiring and is giving way to the more younger generation of the ANC. Not quite the youth that we would want to see more of inside of the NEC, those who are 35 and under. So that's the first aspect of it. The second aspect of it is that even though it is a knock to the president that his most stringent supporters, such as Pravin Gordhan, and also people like Jeff Khadebe, Naledi Pandor didn't make it onto the list, he still has a lot of other people that have come in that actually made it onto the list that are well-known supporters of the president, such as Noneba Mhlauli that also made it in, Bejani Chauke that made it in there, and they ran the CR17 campaign. So even though he's lost some supporters, he's getting a lot more from those that have come in than he previously had. So it won't have that much of an impact on, the balance of forces for him inside of the NEC. He remains in a very strong position in that, but also the fact that some of those people really were getting much older and therefore really needed to take a break and retire from active politics.
So with the change of guard, what should be the focus, given the socioeconomic conditions, also the inherited psychosocial trauma of the country? We're obviously looking at the impact of the triple threats of poverty, unemployment and inequality. Unemployment alone sitting at 33.9%.
So with the younger generation that comes in, you would expect more energy and more vigor and more urgency to tackle some of these problems that have been plaguing our country since 1994. We've expected as well new ideas to deal with some of these perennial problems that the old guard doesn't seem to have had the political will, the appetite, or the skill set to be able to resolve some of these challenges. So these new ideas that we're expecting is because of a new perspective that you would expect to hear and see from this younger generation. But my fear and worry is that some of these younger people are so entrenched in the old factional politics of the older generation that even themselves don't really bring any new ideas, but are just there to perpetuate some of these factional battles. So it then gives a sense that you are just getting new wine, but this new wine is, in terms of ideas and ideology, coming from the old bags. So it's new wine in old bags, and unfortunately, it's the sense that it gives. I hope it's not, because the country really could do with new ideas from the youth. And if these youthful people who have the energy, who have the vigor, can be able to pursue a new agenda for the ANC and possibly as a result, consequently, for the country as well, it would really be great for this country, because we do have serious problems. Youth unemployment in the extended definition has reached over 70%, and that's a crisis situation. The ESCOM debacle really has not been resolved, with load shedding that started in 2007, and the old guard was unable to resolve some of those things. So the fresh thinking and the new mindset hopefully will bring new ideas to bear on some of these problems.
Well, speaking of new ideas, there have been talkings of a reshuffle that's on the cards. Perhaps some of those NEC members making it into cabinet. What are your thoughts on that? How imminent is that?
It seems definitely imminent, Liesl, considering the fact that the deputy president didn't make it back into the NEC, and there's now a new deputy president for the ANC, and there are two centers of power theory would then mean that they want to have their deputy president in the ANC also becoming deputy president of the country. The second issue is the Secretary General of the ANC having is the transport minister, and that position of SG is a full-time position in the ANC. So he would have to leave and resign from government to go and take care of those responsibilities full-time. So those vacancies that are going to be created in the cabinet are going to trigger a cabinet reshuffle, and you can expect that cabinet reshuffle to happen between the 8th of January and the 14th of February. I think that's the time frame that you have, because the ANC is going to reconvene on the 5th of January to conclude its conference, and then on the 8th is the January 8th statement, so you don't expect any major shifts before then. But after the 8th and before the SONA, you can expect the president is going to make some major changes, and hopefully he can bring some of the young people that have made it onto the NEC to become cabinet ministers. I mean, if you look at someone like Ramaphosa, who has huge experience in terms of cabinet support, having been a spokesperson to a cabinet minister for over 5 years, close to 5 years, if not more. The fact that she's worked in parliament as well, she has a master's qualification, so she has all the skills necessary, she has all the qualifications, she has all the wherewithal to be able to handle a cabinet position. And you would hope that a person like that would be considered favorably by the president to be given a full ministerial position, so that you can unleash the creative energies of young people to resolve some of the challenges that this country faces.
Lukhanyo Vangqa, thank you very much for joining us here on the SABC and really weighing in on, that on the back of the 55th National Elective Conference for the African National Congress, really exploring whether this new ANC NEC will indeed give President Ramaphosa the boost he needs to continue with the agenda and theme of renewal and reforms, as he has so publicly stated during his first tenure. Thank you very much to Lukhanyo for weighing in on that discussion.